Wow, it has been so long since I've actually recorded a full-length video out here, bro. I just want to say that if you didn't already see my big documentary it dropped yesterday, let's go see if we can run that thing up to 1,000 views, because it has the potential for it. Anyways, with all that pity self-promotion out of the way, yeah, we're getting a severe thunderstorm right now. Severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for hail up to 1 inch and a possible tornado, but but the way things are going right now, it's passing way to our north and east, so I think we'll be good to go with this one. But let's get into today's video, just a completely serious guide about starting up your first year of gardening. Let's go. So first of all, your first garden will probably be way smaller than your second or even third gardens. You want to know something? Because those first few gardens that you're going to end up growing are all going to be smaller than your future plans. So you want to start out your garden with that in mind, that your garden won't be this big. You want to know something? A little flashback to the great year, quote unquote, 2020. This garden, you see the strawberry patch right here? This was the whole garden. This whole extra area didn't exist till the preceding year, 2021. But in 2020, we just had this right here as our entire garden. We had a trellis all set up over here, one trellis for the green beans to share. I remember the pumpkins were right there in that corner right there. Right over here we have the corn, and I specifically remember getting a hurricane up here that year that knocked it down. And remember we had no power for a week. Yeah, it was a different time, let's just say. So I will say that your first year garden, you don't want to go all out. You want to go more beginners friendly plants. We'll get into what those plants are in the next clip. But I will say that you don't want to plant stuff that'll like really overwhelm your garden that first year. That second year you could potentially expand since you have a bit more knowledge about what you need. But for the most part, most plants will be falling around 1 to 2 inches of water per week. So that's what I'd be expecting. So 1 to 2 inches of water a week. During that first year, you probably don't want to go out and build an irrigation system. If you do want to, then I have a video just for you. I have just about every single thing that you can think of on this channel. Chickens, gardening, and just all that sort of stuff around here. But I will say, this right here is what a lot of work can do. But irrigation systems are probably something to consider a bit down the road versus your first year gardening, because irrigation systems are a bit more complicated. Oh, and look at this. We actually have blueberries coming in here. Maybe in about 4 weeks we might have some blueberries to harvest so my chickens stay out of the garden. Now, what are some plants you should consider planting that first year? Well, you want to plant plants that A, won't overwhelm you, and B, won't overwhelm your garden. So those first year plants are going to be something like this. So you might have corn, which is fairly easy to grow, maintain. They're actually fairly decent plants, and they're actually pretty independent plants as well, which is why you'll notice that farmers won't water their corn crop when they're in a separate field. This year, we haven't watered the corn crop ever because it's literally impossible to get an irrigation system fitted all the way up that hill. You might be not be able to tell how steep it is from this angle and this point of view, but when you actually get up there, it is actually pretty steep, I will say. But to be able to get the water up there will take a little bit. I think this summer, though, take a few hours to get everything all set and done, but I'll say probably most likely we'll have an irrigation up there. So they're pretty independent plants. Strawberries are easy to maintain, and same are with the tomatoes. The gourds are a bit more intermediate, so I probably won't recommend them, but I will recommend stuff like tomatoes, eggplants, corn, peppers, and of course cabbage and carrots. Those right there are the pinnacle of brand new gardeners. If you're starting out with a raised bed or an in-ground, doesn't matter. We started out with in-ground, but when I was much younger, 2014, we had an in-ground garden. I remember growing that down there in southern Connecticut a while ago. That was what, like that was 10 years ago, bro. That was insane. But like, I will say that at that time it was something to consider, and we did grow some stuff like carrots, and those were the only years we had success with carrots. But I bet you can find way more success with carrots, because this year we're probably going to do some in-ground carrots. Oh, look at the nice ambience it creates out here with the incoming thunderstorm that will probably bring us 0.02 inches of rain. But we did have a pretty nasty thunderstorm on the drive in this morning. It was like thundering, hailing, winds were gusting. We got almost 1 inch of rain here earlier today. It's crazy. So I will say, gardening doesn't come without its complications with your schedule. Most people do a spring garden, not a fall garden, because it's best, because if you're like still someone that's in school, then you'll probably still be able to work it out into your schedule. But if you're like, but the summertime is actually a really good opportunity, because during the summertime I feel like I go outside a bit more than I do during this year, because well, I'm in my second semester right now, and well, I have to focus a lot more on my grades than I can on the garden. But I will say the fall garden I was able to do this year for like the first couple of weeks before it died, because well, ultimately nothing ended up coming out of it. But this spring garden started out indoors, so I will say hopefully we will get some results out of it. I'll film a garden tour, probably release it today as well, just for you. Also with the garden, also requires some water. During the first year, as I said, what are you going to do without the irrigation system? Well, get yourself a hose. Get yourself a hose pipe if you need to, if the garden's not close enough to your house. Like, well, back in 2020, this pool wasn't here. We didn't install that till 2022. So we just dragged the hose out here with the hose pipe, and we watered everything down out here. It was pretty simple. It worked. And I must say, those were some good times. You water them, or you could actually do something that we actually did. We actually made a makeshift irrigation system in 2020. So what we did was we just attached a hose pipe to a PVC pipe with holes like stabbed into them, and put them there for a little while. They create the same effect as an irrigation system, except it wasn't automated. You have to actually go out there and turn it on yourself. The irrigation system is a bit more automated, although you do have to turn on the hose nozzle. Another thing that you need to do when you're caring for your garden is rip out these stupid weeds. Like, see this? I have no clue what these are. These aren't, at first I thought they were poison ivy, but I haven't really seen any poison ivy at all this year. They look, I have no clue what they are, bro. They look like leaves that you see on a tree, but they're way too red. I don't know what they are, to be real with you. But you do want to get out in the garden, get some gloves, because poison ivy will grow. And also, I'll show you how to harvest in the next bit, so don't worry about that just yet. But I will say be wary of stuff that can climb into your harvest, like beetles and worms and stuff like that. Not earthworms. I'm talking about the worms that climb into your plants and eat them from the inside out. They suck. Now, harvesting goes a little bit like this. So what you do is you take your clippers, you go to the plant, check and see if it's ready. There's many ways to tell if it's ready. You should probably know what it looks like when it's ready. You clip it, you do a little bit of clipping, you clip the top of it off, and then you put it in a basket, bring it inside, put it in your fridge or whatever, wherever you're going to store it, and then you successfully harvested something. Usually for the spring garden, I'd say you probably get your first harvest in early July. Around the time 4th of July comes around, if you don't celebrate 4th of July, well then usually around the 1st or 2nd of July is when you'll get your first harvest. Hence why there's a tomato branch called the 4th of July, is because they begin growing around that time. Now, with all that being said, I just covered the complete basics about gardening. I don't know how long this video is. I'm gonna take a guess and say it's 7 to 10 minutes long. So hope you found some value. I gotta go record a garden tour before we get this massive thunderstorm over here, which it is looking like it's gonna hit us pretty well now, but you never know. Let's go film that garden tour, man. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you tomorrow.